Hey guys, Ryan O'Connor again, and in this video we're going to be diving into part 2 of our onboarding series. Whether you're an SMMA or selling sub-accounts as a SaaS or manually selling sub-accounts, it doesn't matter. This video is going to be applicable to you. So focus in on some of the main items that we're going to be talking about. Now, this is a follow-up video to the first video we did, which really spoke about, some of the best practices with preparing clients for onboarding and how you can best prepare yourself using the calendar system inside of High Level and all the options available with the calendar system that will really drive massive efficiencies with how you run and handle your onboarding process inside your customer success function inside your agency. Now, if you haven't seen that video, go back and watch that, part 1. This is going to be part 2, which is designed to help you come up with your own onboarding SOP. We at Growthable have done this 1,000 times and we have our own SOPs, but who's to say that that's the right way to go? If you're your own agency and your own business, well then we trust that you might have your own systems and processes that you want to follow along with. Now, there are a couple of key things that are prerequisites to using High Level, like being able to send email, SMS, being able to create a funnel, being able to see that funnel publicly on the internet. All of these things need to be done, and we try to do them in the first 60 minutes. So stay tuned. I'm going to dive into the screen share, and we're going to get started straight away with the normal process that we would follow inside of the first 60 minutes spent with a new SaaS or SMMA client for High Level agencies. So jump into the screen share, tell us what you think. There will be a part 3, which goes on to explain a little bit more of the nuanced functionality where there's extra setup, but we tend to do that in our second block of onboarding. We split it up into 2, first hour, second hour. So this is what it would potentially look like as a build out, whether it's just you building out your own account or whether you're an agency wanting to know the best practices on setting up a new client account of your own. This will apply to you. So if you're brand new, watch it. If you're an agency and you want to get better at onboarding, watch the video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel if you find this information useful, helpful. Ask questions. And of course, if you want Growthable to do any of this for you, there is a link in the description of the video to go and either sign up for a paid plan, or you can upgrade to the $497 with High Level and get free support for 10 sub accounts. We'll do all of this for you for free. So if you haven't upgraded to the $497 yet, things like conversational AI enhancements, customized dashboard, custom objects, to name a few. Plenty of good reasons to upgrade to the $497 plan. SaaS mode, of course, who could forget SaaS mode? So if you haven't upgraded, upgrade under Growthable's link, which is in the description below, and we'll start working with you for free. So without further ado, let's jump into the screen share. Hope you enjoy this one. It is a little bit of a long one, but necessary. So enjoy this, put it on 1.5 or 2x, and we'll see you on the other side. Hey guys, welcome to the screen share. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into a fair amount of detail here, but this is a brand new sub account. Literally have just signed in for the first time and done absolutely nothing to my sub account. Right now, it thinks the mobile app is installed because I've signed in as myself, and because I exist at the agency level, it already knows that I have installed the mobile app. And because I'm a user of this sub account, it gives us the tick. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that obviously you could do at the launch pad, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to skip right past that, because this is normally what you want to do if you're an end user by connecting these things here, but we follow a slightly different process. Now, one of the first things you want to do is you want the ability to send an SMS. So we're going to go to the settings, and then we're going to go to our phone numbers. And what we're going to do is we're going to grab a number, and we want to get a US number, right? One of the easiest things to do is to turn on the filters here and then get rid of toll free, get rid of MMS, keep it local, click apply and refresh the results. And of course, if I've got SMS capabilities on, I should see that the local numbers are SMS capable by the green button here. And so that would be something I want, right? So I can click proceed to buy. I get charged $1.15 from Twilio, essentially, right? It recognizes that it's an American number, and therefore A2PD 10DLC would fail. Now, this is for USA. If you were purchasing inside of a different country other than the US, there's a couple of things to think about. The regulatory bundle / address menu is referring to numbers that are not inside the USA or Canada. And in particular, my home country, Australia, requires a regulatory bundle, as does the UK. The UK refer to it as KYC, or Know Your Customer, and they each require a bundle and an address. To do this, under LC, you need to do an address bundle first. And essentially what you can do here is you can just fill out any address. Now, the friendly name is just the way that you can refer to it, right? So if I was doing this, I could call it literally anything, and I'm going to call it Smarties, again, with the customer name. If this was a sub-account of yours, you would refer to it as, your customer. Now, if this is called, like Gary's Fruit Shop, okay? So when I see the notifications about the status of the bundles, I know that I can refer to them as the Smarties bundle, right? Because you could have multiples coming through at any point. Now, they will just approve this straight away. So Gary's Fruit, and we're going to go with 100. This is a made-up address, Smith Street, right? And I'm going to go to Australia here, and I'm in New South Wales. It's in Sydney, and it's 2000. Now, once we've done this, we should get a submit button, and it's under review. The point of the address bundles is that they validate them immediately. And so now when I go create, I'll do the regulatory bundle, which now pulls in the different types of submissions, okay? And this is where we want to be pulling in the information from a different section of here. We want to go to settings, business profile, and it's going to pull it in from the business information here, okay? So if I go down to my legal authorized representation, this is where we're going to want to have the legal actual names of things, okay? So we can put in a business registration number. We can say that, I'm out of, say, Asia, for instance. The legal business name, I'm going to call, what do we call it? Gary's Fruit, right? And in Australia, we have things called proprietary limited, but if you're in America, you're probably used to Gary's Fruit LLC. If we update this information with all the other information, like the phone and everything like that, we can then easily pull this information through into the regulatory bundle submissions or the A2P submissions. So let's give that a minute. It seems to have saved. Now we go back to our phone numbers. Now we go back to our bundle, and we can create a reg bundle for Australia for a mobile number. And you should see, it hasn't pulled the business name through here. I have no idea why. The Trust Center might pull that through when we do a brand submission. And we're located inside the US, sure. And, do we have a tax ID? I'm going to say no, just to see if we can get past this. Let's continue. And it did bring through my Gary's Fruit LLC on the A2P, but not on the bundle. So that looks to be a bug. Sean Clark, if you're watching this, please fix. So those are the two ways to get up and running with your phone, which will enable SMS and voice. Note that if you buy a US number, there are restrictions that will be imposed geographically. What do I mean by that? It means that if you're using LC, they don't have every country in the world enabled by default. And some regulatory bodies like the UK will stop you being able to SMS to the UK from a US number at all. So if you are doing business in the UK and you're inside the United States, you're going to need to get both an American and a British number through the LC system in order to communicate with anyone from the UK. Now, that's enough on the phone numbers. The next thing we want to do is look at email, right? So we want to be able to get email up and running. Now, we're not going to talk about email deliverability in this video because that could go for about 3 hours all on its own, right? Now, if you are building out a sub account, you should already have the default provider that's pulled down from the agency level. If you don't know what I'm talking about, this configuration is the default email service at the agency level. So you switch to agency level, go to settings, go to email services, I believe, and you'll figure it all out there, right? Now, because I'm using LC and I'm not using anything else, you do want to go and do a dedicated domain and IP, and then that's going to start configuring dedicated domain. And of course, this is for sending, right? Emails. So what you want to do is you want to have a subdomain against the domain that you want to send from. So this is a sending domain, which, these are mail exchange records that I'm going to have to update. These are not simple, CNAME or a record, one DNS record that gets changed. It's about 7 DNS records that gets changed. DNS records are explained in a little bit more detail here. They probably need to update that because it's actually LC, not Mailgun, even though the infrastructure is Mailgun. But, you might just call that, sending, or you might call it, mail. I would avoid using mail because it is reserved for some mail exchange records as well. You could have MG, which is a nice classic one. You could have, do not reply mydomain.com, right? I quite like that. I think that the language is nice if someone is looking at a domain. And then you can click add and verify. And then once you do this, it'll essentially do an MX lookup against the subdomain you've given it. If you click add record manually, it's going to tell you exactly what you need to do. So you've got 2 text records or TXT records, a CNAME record, and 2 mail exchange records. Now, all you need to do is go into the domain that you have and update the DNS records to include 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 new DNS records. And so for the host, it tells you exactly which values to key in. And the subdomain that we chose was do not reply, right? So you don't see the fully qualified domain listed when we add the host domain. You're only seeing the prefix, which is the bit at the start, do not reply. You would not do this for a root domain. So at no point do we recommend you ever doing this for, say, yourdomain.com. You can see here that it's a string which kind of verifies ownership. You've got SPF records and various other things. You've got the CNAME record, and then you've got the mail exchange records, right? So mailgun.org, and that's MXA, MXB. So you are using Mailgun, as we all know, but because it's provided through LC, there are things that we need to be aware of. They have lots of safety considerations with sending and warm up and domain reputation. And I recommend, you go and watch this video, provided by the high level team, and off you go, right? Once you've added those to the domain, through GoDaddy or something like that, you can actually click verify, and it'll then attempt to verify those records. And mine's definitely going to fail because none of these actually exist against that domain. But once you've done that, you could try to auto configure, and that's going to then try to sign into GoDaddy, and I don't want to do that. But that would, essentially, make an API call to either, like Google Sites, domains, or whatever it is, or GoDaddy, or one of these other ones that are, fairly common. And it's going to try to authorize against your account and add the the DNS records automatically through an API call, or you just need to do it yourself, right? So to understand how to do exactly what this process looks like, I don't want to go and sign into GoDaddy or anything like that right now. But essentially, if you sign into GoDaddy, which is one of the most popular ones, you'll click on Manage DNS, and that's where you can add in these steps. So we've taken phone away without showing you the full process, and we've done email without showing you the full process. The other thing that we want to do is we want to get you up and running as an individual. And so you would need to add you or your staff members as users of the system. I don't exist as a user because this person exists as an agency user. Therefore, I am no user. That's why I don't see my profile as an option underneath this menu item. So in order to fix that problem, we need to go back to our agency view, back to our settings. And what we need to do now, let's just click on settings, and we need to go to team. And so if it is me who is actually going to end up being a user of that system, we need to find me. We need to click on edit. We need to scroll down to roles and permissions. And we want to go to the most recent one, which was called the on-demand webinar snapshot. So here I am. I am going to be able to see everything, and I am now becoming a user of that sub account, and I'm already the agency, owner or whatever, and that can't be changed, right? So there we go. We click save. Now, when we switch back to our snapshot, we are now going to have under settings menu, move my silly face out the way, go to settings, and then now we've got my profile. Okay, so that's a common mistake that a lot of people make when trying to build out sub accounts. So as you can see, we've got my personal profile set up here. If we go to notifications, you might want to take the opportunity whilst you're here to set up the in-app email or SMS notifications that get triggered by default. So I've already done this, and you can do what you need to do, and you can do that at a per user level. Now, why would I take into my personal profile? Well, adding an email signature and then adding your video conferencing, right, connections is where you want to go, right? So we've got Google Calendar, Outlook, iCloud, Calendly, and then with video conferencing, we've got Zoom and Teams, all right? So it's quite easy to connect Zoom. You would just go through, you would connect your Zoom account like so. And once you've signed in to Zoom, and I'm not going to do it here, what we want to do then is when we create a calendar so once you've linked a calendar, the availability of this person defaults to a meeting location, and we want that meeting location to be Zoom, right? Now, by doing it this way, you're going to add an actual integration, meaning that the Zoom links will be created to be a unique Zoom link for each meeting that occurs in that calendar. You could also just use your personal meeting ID, which is something that I do, just because I don't like to have to reauthorize Zoom and end up, potentially sending someone the wrong Zoom link. So what I do is I use the personal meeting ID in Zoom, and I send the same Zoom link for every single meeting that I have. That way, I know that no matter what happens with reminders, with rescheduling, with calendars, it's always the same Zoom link. So go ahead and connect Zoom, and you would then choose the meeting location that applies to the user. You then need to update the hours of the user to be accurate, because when you assign users to calendars, their availability is what drives their ability to take an appointment, particularly in the cases of class, round robin, and so forth, type calendars where the availability is driven by the availability of the user, not the availability of the calendar. And of course, your own time zone would impact this availability massively in the case where you're taking appointments with multiple time zone. And I think in 2024, that's just about everyone. And that's all I have for the individual profile. Of course, you probably want to have a look at the default opportunities and pipelines. So if you're setting this up to set it up for your own business, you would want to make sure that you know exactly what's sitting in your pipelines. And right now, I have 0 pipelines, right? So we have no opportunities because no pipeline exists. And I want to create my first pipeline and get up and running. Now, just looking at this, I'm not seeing a button to create a pipeline. So I think potentially that is a weird bug that I've just kind of found. So that's interesting. So you want to create a pipeline. The point of the pipelines is that you have something that when you're dealing with leads, you're tracking the stage, right? Because a contact becomes a lead who then becomes a customer, and they do that process through graduating to different sequential stages of a funnel. A funnel is also known as a pipeline, and that's how that works. You'll also want to either publish a new site that's come from your snapshot or connect a site to a domain. So what I like to do here is we like to go to the domains first, and let's go down to domains. Let's add a domain. And now I have a wildcard domain, which means I can put anything here prior to the word funnel and then prior to the domain.me. I can click continue here, and it will automatically add that domain record because I have a wildcard against this domain. So see how it says it's already authorized it? That's great. We're happy with that. It'll go through and connect that domain, and I might need to sign in or something like that. So let's just do that real quick. Just gonna pause the, oh no, we can't see that. So let's just sign in and grab what we need to grab. There we go. No worries. Here we go. So we've done this bit, and now we're waiting to do this bit. We're going to click connect. And it's whinging about that for some reason. Oh, no, it was connected successfully. There we go. And because we don't have a site, we're just going to proceed to finish. It's there, but it's not connected to anything. Okay, now if you're interested in learning about the wildcard domain, essentially what you can do is you can just add an asterisk as a DNS record with the same CNAME value as any other funnel or website, because they use the same CNAME record. It's just a different host. Okay. If you don't know what I'm talking about, essentially what you would do is you would, I think I said it was like GoDaddy or something like that. You would say, pull up the domain like this. Finally here, right? And so if I scroll down, I should see. I don't have the wild card there. There it is. So I've added a asterisk. The asterisk doesn't point to anything, which is, usually a subdomain, right? So it's normally, like app dot or go dot or link dot, right? So what I did is I just created a wildcard record, which points to sites.ludicrous.cloud, which is the 2024 CNAME record, which has been updated since it was like message sender or whatever it was. So that is 2024 accurate. Once you've done that, it means that you can add anything in front of the root domain and it'll just work. So this is particularly good for onboarding new client accounts that need their own domain. So a little trick for you there. It will save you a lot of time if you're onboarding new clients, because what you're able to do if you do the wildcard way is, rather than having to get that client to figure out how to access their DNS records, which it's very common that, customers of agencies tend to be non-technical, is that you can actually give them a public-facing domain, which is a subdomain of your domain. And you could just have it as like, it could be a subdomain of a subdomain, but we don't need to go to that level of detail here. But essentially, it gives you the ability to do a public-facing domain without them needing to do any DNS manipulation, and you can just get stuff up and running straight away. Now, why would you do this? Well, particularly in the case of A2P 10DLC submissions, the TCR organization wants to see a branded domain for the opt-in form that you're submitting as part of your campaign. So by doing a wildcard, it means that, if my domain was Gary's Fruit Shop, right? Maybe I can't get off Wix. Maybe, I can't remember what my login to GoDaddy is or whatever it is, right? By doing it this way, I could have a A2P 10DLC form publicly facing at garysfruitshop.funnel.me, and I can submit that in my A2P submission to say, here's where you go. It's a public URL. It contains my branding. Here's the opt-in language, terms and conditions, privacy policy, and you'll get it approved without the need for your customer to be there at all. Of course, Growthable does this with our onboarding process. So if you're interested in that, there's a link below. Sign up. We'll do it for you, of course. Otherwise, we want you to take all the tips and tricks that we use in our organization to do these things faster and better. We have a snapshot to make all this kind of easier as well. So that's how I would get a domain connected. And then, of course, the last thing to do there is to connect it to some sort of site. And so now we've got websites, funnels, quizzes, surveys, forms, webinars, right? And so all these things could potentially be linked to a domain. But what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go in and we're going to do a really, really, really basic funnel. I'm just going to call this my first funnel. Let's move that out the way and let's create it. Now, of course, you might want to do this with a snapshot so that there is something sitting there already. We do this with our A2P 10DLC snapshot so that there's already a funnel with a form, opt-in language, privacy policy, etc., sitting there ready to go. I'm just going to call this the home page, give it a home path, and click funnel step. So we do this. We wait for the kind of creation process here. I'm just going to pause and have to watch this. Right, we're back. So we're going to use we're going to create from blank. And let's pause because you don't want to see. Okay, now we can connect the domain directly from inside of the funnel, which is great. So then we're going to go to whatever we gave it. And then now I have a public-facing funnel at that URL. Once, of course, I click publish. We don't care about that, and we don't care about that. Now we can click publish, and we should see. Let's just get a section in here. Now we can publish it. Finally, it's stopped spinning. So now we can load that URL and we can get it up and running, right? So fun fact, if you're still watching after all this time, let me give you a little bit of an explanation on how the funnels work. So you have 3 different URLs. You have a control, you've got a variation, you've got the step URL, and then you have the funnel URL. So funnel URL, page URL, and then you have the step URL, which is this one. Okay, so you can go to the settings here and you would say home 1 and update that, which is the step URL. Okay, if this happens to be the first step of a funnel, that could be different. Okay, then you can click on the settings here and it gives you /homepage 86, blah, 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 right? So we could say -A and update that page. And now, if we hit the funnel URL, we get this, my first funnel. If we look over here, it's not my first funnel, it's /home1. That will also load the same page. And then, of course, we have one last one, which is homepage-A, which loads the exact same page. So we've gone from home 1 to homepage A, and of course, the funnel URL itself. Sending someone to the funnel URL will default to the first step in the funnel if you have that set, right? You've also then got the domain that it's linked to and the path, right? So this domain will resolve to the first step in the funnel. So even if I don't go to the funnel URL and I go to the domain with that path, it'll resolve to there. And so that's why we saw this go here. The other thing is that, if we had created a variation in this step, then the variation using the load balancer would get something else. So I can duplicate the control fairly easy here. And I'm just going to duplicate it like this because that button wasn't working. And then you can decide what split of traffic you want. So at the moment, we're getting 100% of traffic on the left, and then we can enable a split test. And of course, this could then have homepage-B. And so instead of it being unique, it's now based on the distribution of traffic. And so we're getting a percentage of traffic going to A and a percentage of traffic going to B. And then, of course, what that means is in our statistics, we'll then get to see which variations convert the most, right? So that is connecting funnels to a domain and a little bit of information about how all these URLs kind of all hang together. The other thing that you'd want to be doing is you'd want to be going to marketing and you'd want to be connecting social accounts to the planner. If you go to the social planner, go to settings, click to connect, you can connect all of these different ones. Update as of October 2024, you can connect any communities that you have, right? So I can now post scheduled content inside my own communities, which is really, really cool. We love the ability to do that. And of course, you've got ability to be way more organized with this, right? So social accounts now, you can have, a lot. You can organize them into groups, right? So if you go to the settings here and we go to categories, you could have, a green category, a pink category, and so on. And it's sort of like if you're doing this for clients, then the ability to organize is important. and the ability to put approval flows in your social is extremely helpful as well, right? So if we just look at this in the calendar view, new post, and I do a new post here, I've got a group called regular posting, and then we have all the other accounts like listed out over there, right? You also have the ability then to customize for each channel. So you might be posting the same content to 5 or 6 different channels, but we know that, a reel needs to look slightly different from, a Facebook reel versus an Instagram video versus a YouTube video. That's going to give you all the options to do all those types of things. So, that's the overview of the social planner. Of course, when we connected emails, we were connecting it so that we could send large volumes of emails with our dedicated domain on the LC thing. That then gives us the ability to come and start creating some email templates. And of course, this is where you would start to import from something like Kajabi, ActiveCampaign, or MailChimp. And this allows you to bring all of the campaigns, templates, and so on from one of those platforms, right? And they'll all have a different way of extracting the data. For instance, with MailChimp, you're essentially recreating the HTML markup from any campaign. So you want to really just be, cloning those campaigns when you do this. You won't really be able to clone it and then go ahead and enhance or make changes to it because it wasn't built natively with the high-level builder. It was built with something else. So just like a bit of a caveat there. Of course, something that's really cool and it's just been added now is the brand boards. This is great because the way that this appears somewhere else in the system is really cool. So for instance, like if we just chose this default Earth kind of brand here, and I just went and changed some of the colors, right? This brown, for instance, and we don't call it brown. We might call it Gary's brown, right? When we save those boards, they'll come up in different sections of the product. So one section is when we're building an email, right? Or we're building a funnel. So let's just go and do a design editor on the email builder rather than import from MailChimp and so forth. We're going to bring in an image, and maybe, just maybe, when we choose a color over here, it's going to say, well, what do you want, right? Gary's brown, the light green, or whatever. And of course, I can then use those colors throughout the system. And it's an amazing cheat code in terms of, being able to consistently pick the right hex values and logo files for whichever customer or account you're working on, or in fact, working in your own business, consistently using the same primary and secondary hex values. It's extremely time-saving and efficient, and it's important to stay on brand. Alrighty. So, connecting domains, making the email deliverability side of things work by using a dedicated domain, following the guidelines around warm-up and so on. We'll probably do a separate video on email warm-up and deliverability because, you could talk about it all week. Connecting sites so that are up and running, checking to make sure that, your Google My Business profile or Google Business profile has been connected so that the information here in my listings and my Google Business profile is coming through. So this obviously needs to be connected. So if you go to the settings area right here, this is where you would go through, configure either, the employee AI version of reviews to have unlimited, or off suggested versus auto responses with reviews AI. That gets turned on at the agency level for the sub account automatically, or per sub account at the agency level again. And the rebilling of this is also set up at the agency level as well. But we're not going to be talking about that. We just want to make sure that we're up and running, overviews ready to go. So with our contacts, then I guess you would then come through to contacts, and you would start importing or creating contacts into the system. your ability then to organize them is going to be done through smart lists, right? So smart lists should be created to segment the audience, and then you can apply filters. Once those filters have been selected, you can, let me just hide this out of the way. So yeah, once you've created what you need to create, then you can turn that into a smart list, right? So this is contacts with the first letter of their first name is R, right? And we could save that. And of course, now I've got a smart list which segments the contact data in that way. So the other thing is around conversations, right? So obviously, once we've connected email and SMS, those are the two primary ones. You want to make sure that at this point, we could go back to the Launchpad, connect Facebook, generate a live chat widget, connect Stripe, and do all those other kind of secondary things. But I think that the initial setup of what we've done is how you get from kind of zero to a working sub account within about 60 minutes. This is the kind of conversation that our team likes to have with new users of the system in the first 60 minutes. Going beyond this and putting in widgets on websites and all that sort of stuff is kind of secondary, and that is going to be in part 3 of our onboarding series, which is the quick wins I guess playbook, that if you are going to be dividing onboarding into one part kind of build and technical setup, and the second part being kind of allowing your customer to gain traction through the solutions you're provided. We think following the quick wins playbook is the easiest way to not only get them invested in the technology that you're providing, but also being able to prove and show results as fast as humanly possible. And it's that time to outcome or time to impact metric that is so important in customer success that we're following there. So we're just going to jump out of the screen share now and wrap up this part 2 video.